Yeah, it's going to be one of those kinds of videos. I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of analyzing of the way things are right now and how what really the prospects there are for actual leftism in the world. Let's be honest, actual leftism in the first world, particularly the United States. And the greatest irony, yet also a perfect example of contradiction. The United States is the richest country in the world, but yet it is the country in the world of the country in the first world that has the most revolutionary potential. I mean, think about it. It's more believable that some, trailer trash guy gets together with like an inner city black guy and they overthrow the system than it is for some, social democratic Swede or Finn or Norwegian or something standing up against the tyranny of having a pretty damn good deal, isn't it? And it's so amazing that the United States has more potential than any other first world country. And yet it is an utter cesspool of reaction. Looking over everything and seeing these people post post articles that say 47% of Americans or have a positive view of socialism or like socialism. And the first world has run around actually believing that. It doesn't take much thought to realize that what they're talking about is social democratic reforms. That's what they think it is. If that was really the case, and oh my God, that more people are turning to socialism than ever, then why aren't they turning to actual socialist parties? They're not. They're turning to the Democrats. They're going, blue no matter who. And here's something that I think we need to keep in mind. The era of the rad lib has begun. Everything that most radical liberals stand for, so does Joe Biden. Joe Biden's in power now and he's putting through those rad lib reforms. They're all me, mine. Gibbs me. We'll promise we'll do some reforms to take care of police violence, which won't actually work. Meanwhile, all of imperialism, structural inequalities still remain. Proving, calling out anything that disagrees with anything on the slightest issue, even if it's reasonable to not agree with somebody on something, even when it's terribly reactionary, posing as progressivism, you get canceled. Think about it. All of that nightmare nonsense is happening right now. Everything that Vosh, ContraPoints, Destiny have ever stood for are happening right now. And Biden is going to be the one to bring it. Everything that the rad libs have said made them different from the mainstream system. Everything that was going to be, we're going to challenge things. We're going to push the Democrats left and all this other garbage. It's manifesting right now. This is the rad lib era. And conservatives know that. The elite of conservative ideology know that this is happening, and this is why they're so vehemently against it. But instead, we're fed some kind of nonsense about space lasers that under Jewish control that start fires and nonsense reactions. That's why there's such a impetuousness to ally, for the Republican Party to ally with Trump. That's why they got him off. The Republican Party allied with Trump. They admitted it. That they came and spoke to them, the people who were supposed to judge Trump on whether he was guilty or not, went to his defense lawyers and talked to them. Imagine that. You're on trial for some petty nonsense, and your lawyer gets to talk to the jury unsupervised. Think about that. And Trump made a deal with them. He'll help the Republican Party maintain their status and support them with his cult of personality, but only if they get him off. Because even in the end, they know they can't defeat rad lib ideology without him. That's where America is now. He got a choice between the rad lib or the Trump cult. And that's the mainstream political discourse, man. Think about that. I mean, you know, bourgeois democracy ain't democracy. But it's interesting to watch it evolve over all this time. And how perfect is that? That the rad libs, the Vosh, and the Destinies, the cancel culture to stop all the bad people, except when Vosh uses the N-word, becomes obsessed with horse genitalia, constantly makes creepy pedophilic nonsense, and still no one cancels him. Destiny can literally walked out and called for white supremacist militias to kill black people for standing up for their right to oppose police brutality, and nothing happened to him. No cancel culture anywhere. I think this means that it's time for the people who engage in it to admit what they are. They're not there for some kind of progressive and stand for. It's a political weapon. And that's fine if you were turning it against the bourgeoisie. But they're not. The rad lib position is the mainstream position now. Think of how perfectly Destiny mirrors the Democratic Party. Oh yeah, we'll give you nice. We'll get rid of people who say words that are unsafe. We'll stock our cabinet full of POC and other kinds of sexual minorities and all that. But in the end, nonsense reforms on police and imperialism continues. That is the heart. That is the heart of radlibism. That's the heart of the Democratic Party. The people who push this radical liberal line are the mainstream oppressive mechanism. And what do we even really have as an alternative? The DSA, which is now kicking people out for quote-unquote class reductionism. I will never stop being offended by the DSA having the word socialist in their name when they're not socialists. They're not even any better than the Democratic Party itself. Sheep herders is too kind of a term. They're more like the scientist that scrapes amoeba onto a petri dish to examine it and then terminate its life. That would be a much better way of putting it. I've come to some other revelations as well. First world people want to be exploited. There is no other rational explanation for it. You take a group of people who claim to be left, and many of them actually are left. And the nonsense that they'll go through. They'll walk up to ContraPoints and give $10,000 a month. For what? for one video every month, sometimes two, so that ContraPoints can turn around and spend all that money on surgery and expensive clothes while contributing nothing to actual revolution? Think about the astronomical amount of money that is wasted on Vosh, that is wasted on Destiny. Two people who couldn't be any more of the antithesis of Marxism, of leftism. And people just wholly line up and throw their money at them for some person who's going to play video games and tell them things that they want to hear. Not someone who actually does something. Not even someone that forwards something. Not even someone that tries to get to the core of ideas on something. And no, horse genitalia don't count. At the same time, some idiot puts Gorilla Glue in their hair. And whether they raise what is it, $40,000 now? For someone who was dumb enough to put glue in their hair? Think about that. The Gorilla Glue woman was my age. She's 39. This is a full-grown adult doing something that stupid. If this was even a teenager, I could sort of understand. They'd still be a stupid teenager, but I could understand why it happens. There is no reason that a full-grown adult would do something this moronic. The Gorilla Glue woman is a mother. That person is in charge of another life. Think about that. Think about this overwhelming stupidity. And the stupidity here is not the point, but the endless amount of money people throw at them so they can best navigate the consequences of their actions. When the New York Maoists were still around, before they decided that they're all just going to support the whatever member of the Democratic Party they really like now, that's where they are now. Go look at them on Facebook. They're Democrats now. They're the push 'em left garbage. And these were the people who kept screaming for years and years on end, oh, we're going to do the revolution in America. Oh, glad you recognized us, CSON. We're the real revolutionaries. They once held a fundraiser to buy a fridge so they could give out free sandwiches to middle-class people. We're going to reach the workers, guys. They went to construction sites, people who were already union workers making, $60,000, $70,000 a year and giving them free sandwiches. Not even to homeless people. Homeless people who could have used... I don't think I should have to explain why a homeless person needs a free sandwich more than a union construction worker does. And people voluntarily, freely gave up money for that. But then back when I was in the LLCO, they would say, can you spare $10 a month to help support cadres in the third world? It wasn't even at the stage of violent revolution yet. It was just helping them set up an office, pay for supplies, etc. Sometimes food and medicine for their own people. And you'd ask them, the kid, adult, for $10 a month, or even a one-time $10 donation. Oh yeah, where's it going? Can I see an itemized list? How do I know it's really going to blah blah blah? These are the same people that turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I'll die for the revolution." Oh yeah, if the revolution takes off tomorrow, man, I'll totally fight to the death. Can you spare $10 for starving people in the third world? Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to check about that. Oh, shut up. These are the same people that throw endless amounts of money at some idiot streamer who does nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I'll admit that there's a bit of sour grapes here. Look at what I've done over the past 12 years. I didn't just bring hundreds, if not thousands of people into the so-called movement. I have been educating people to the best of my ability for more than a decade. When every one of these people, Destiny, Vosh, or ContraPoints or whatever, when they were sitting there in their mom's house, pleasuring themselves to friggin' anime. I hate to be the one to say it, but I'm kind of the father of Marxism on YouTube. Save maybe Brendan Cooney, but he disappeared. And I say that not with ego, but out of depression. How many people have I seen come and go? How many people do you think I've seen come and go over the past 12 years? Some idiot bursts onto the scene like gangbusters, like they're going to be the next Lenin and shit, and they're talking this and that, and they're gonna organize this and that, and oh, Jason Unruhe, he's the evil whatever-ist. And then what? 6 months to 2 years, that person is gone. Look at how everybody was fawning over Scenable, some 10-year-old kid who was repeating whatever their parents told them. And the tens of thousands of views of video, all for Scenable just to turn on them in, like what, 5 months? 6 months? And I was here the whole time. And how hard I have tried. When you subscribe to me, you get a minimum of 30 videos a month. You count in the Press TV appearances and the odd, extra video here and there. 35 videos a month, maybe. And that's even if you donate. Even if you don't donate, you still get 35 videos a month. You show me who works harder than that. And yeah, I got a bit of sour grapes because I work harder than all of these, than these phonies. And so much shit that I've been through that I couldn't even explain it all. The wrecking, the threatening my family, and that's just what other Marxists do during all that time. You don't have to donate money to me, but at least donate it to the right people, to the people who are struggling. And I have seen these people come and go over and over again for the past 12 years. I think the only person I remember that's still around was Caleb Maupin. He's the only guy that I remember from the beginning who's still there. And he and I don't see eye to eye on things. But we do it without wrecking. But here's my idea. People want to be exploited. Why do they keep looking for these ridiculous figures like Vosh or Destiny or Trump? People who do nothing, accomplish nothing, and yet they mindlessly throw their money away at them. This isn't like a rightist thing or a leftist thing. Is it an American thing? I don't see it as being this bad in other countries. But it's definitely the worst in the U.S. People want to be exploited. They want someone to come along and say, yeah, I'm gonna fix everything for you. Just mindlessly throw your money at me and I'll go play video games on stream and contribute nothing to the zeitgeist. Oh. And argue for the age of consent to be lowered. Because that's a priority now. And how is this really any different than Trump? Quantitative, but not a qualitative difference. It's the same thing. This is where all the money goes. Well, that's the freedom of the market, man. And you can't question the market, right? Yeah. We're looking at things getting so much worse. These people who, for all the time, claimed that they're the left, are now going to go back to sleep because Biden's in power. They got their nice, soft democratic reforms. They got all the different sexual and racial minorities into positions of power. They got the girl power running the CIA. And nothing fundamentally changes. Nothing. And the third world still gets bombed. It still gets murdered. But I guess you can just mock them for that and tell them that their suffering under the empire doesn't mean anything or is not significant. And isn't that the point that I've been trying to make all along, is that first world people don't care? The average, regular, everyday first world person does not care about the system that grinds the rest of the world into poverty. That's the average person. Now, the average person in America running around calling themselves left doesn't care anymore. Doesn't care any more than them. As long as they get the free stuff. As long as you can put up a brown face on imperialists. As soon as you can paint a rainbow on a fucking Tomahawk missile. They're happy. And then people tell me about this socialism with American characteristics. Think about who you're appealing to. Never mind the theory of socialism with American characteristics or socialist billionaires. Think about, forget those theories. Think about who it is that they're reaching to. Who are you reaching to? People who don't care. Cindy Sheehan gives more of a fuck about what happens in this world than the average leftist does. Anybody who's straight up anti-war cares more about what happens to the world than these rad libs do. How sad is that? That the people who aren't even a part of our ideology do a better job of it than the people who are supposed to be in it. It's done. First world people want to be exploited. They want their Trump. They want their Vosh. So they can mindlessly throw money at something and have it all magically just go away without having to think for themselves one iota. They want to be exploited. They just don't care. They lament having to work at Walmart, but will so freely throw away all their money on some useless asshole like them. You don't even have to throw away your money on them. You do have to work at Walmart. They so easily voluntarily go into it. And it's there. And this is your core of revolutionary potential. Why is it that socialism with American characteristics is so happy to reach out to the Trump supporters and talk to them and get them over to their side? But they won't talk to the Bundists. They won't talk to Jewish socialists. Why is it we got to reach out to the Nazis and convince them, but ignore all the fucking white people in a trailer park? How come they don't matter, but the Nazis do? That the Appalachians don't matter? You got to talk to, to them. You got to talk to not the Appalachians, but you got to talk to the Trump supporters and the neo-Nazis and all them, but you won't talk to Appalachians. I know I'm hitting people with a lot in this video, but the point of it is to make people realize how bad things are. None of this garbage that, oh, you're worshiping poverty, or, oh, you're just always negative. The situation is negative. And people that are so far up their own ass on copium or hopium, depending on whatever it is that you want to call it, that they can't see it. I suppose it's hard to see how bad poverty is. Not even just in the third world, but say somewhere like Appalachia and whatnot. It must be hard to see from your little condo in Beverly Hills. Maybe being up on the hill makes it so hard to see all that from a distance. Who knows? And one final point that I want to make about socialism with American characteristics. That's where Marxism is in the first world, or at least America. It's a bribe. They aren't even talking about changing the social relations. Yeah, that's in there, but they're not talking about it. Is the slogan change the social relations? Is the slogan eliminate poverty? Stop war? No, the slogan is billionaires. Because that's the selling point. Become a socialist and you'll be rich. That's not an ideology, that's a bribe. And a false promise on top of it. And anybody can take whatever quotes they want from Marx out of context to try to justify that, but that's what it is. It's not even an understanding of the system and seeking to dismantle it. It's just starting from the premise of a bribe. No theory. No deconstructing modern society. Just here's here. Vote for me. You'll be rich, rich, rich. And frankly, I know this is going to hurt, but that doesn't sound much different than libertarians. Oh, don't worry, you'd all be rich and successful if you just get the state out of the way. I'm not saying they're the same thing. I'm saying they act like the same way. The first world left isn't serious at all. They want some messiah to come along and help them and then just throw money at them so that they can feel like they just... You can go into... Slavoj Žižek and the feel-good capitalism. You bought the organic water or whatever, and now you feel like you did something. You signed up to Christian Children's Fund, and you paid for someone to be forced to read the Bible or starve, so now you can feel good about yourself. The kids are still in cages. All of that. That is the first world left. It really is. And for the longest time, the idea has been, how do you reach the first world person to get through to them? And that's what I've been trying to do. I spent so much time thinking about this and thinking about a lot of other things, and the massive development, the theory that I propound has changed. How much of it has been enriched and evolved in the last 6 months. I've got friends that keep calling me a Marxist theorist, and I've always rejected the idea. But maybe there's something to what they're saying. But I think now, as Slavoj Žižek would say, we come to the dirty conclusion. Maybe there is no reaching first world people. Just as there's no way of reaching the bourgeoisie. You can't convince the bourgeoisie that socialism is better no matter how much you prove it. The same thing for first world people and first world leftists in general. You could sit down and you can prove them wrong about one thing 1,000 times, and they don't want to hear it. There is nothing more than astronomical mountains of proof of the damage that porn does to society. And there are people, not necessarily first worldists, I'm just using this as an example, that just don't want to hear it. You hate the sex worker, the OnlyFans is sex worker. Yeah, no, it's not. You can give them every amount of proof of the damage that prostitution does. And you're a swerve. Never mind the idiocy of supporting prostitution as a legitimate... Sex work is not work, not even by any definition. And I can get why a liberal would think that. But a Marxist? That is so idiotically anti-Marxist. It's unbelievable that anybody who could claim to be a Marxist could say that sex work is work. I mean, it's moronic. You can give them mountains of data that go over 100 years proving the damages and harm of pornography and prostitution. But they don't want to hear it. They will not listen. It's no different than dangists. You can prove over and over again China is a capitalist country. It's engaging in frigging imperialism. But they don't want to hear it. They will say anything they can to rationalize it away. The same thing about Vietnam. You think Vietnam is socialist? I mean, you think it's not. It's capitalist. Here it is. Here's something that a lot of dangists just completely missed. Uproar as Chinese African National Council officials sworn in as minister in the presidency. South Africans have raised concerns and frustrations regarding the swear-in of Dr. Xiaomei Harvard. That's right. A Chinese person is now in a significant position of power within South Africa and running around in African clothes for some reason. Why is there a Chinese person in such a position of power of an African country? Because they're there to watch over Chinese investments in Africa. There's literally no other reason for the person to be there. But dangists will look the other way. And yes, there's a legitimate source for that. Just make sure you scream it's not real. Or come up with some bizarre rationalization why that's there. And no matter what you explain to them, no matter what you show, they'll just keep saying it. They'll just keep believing it. No matter what, they want to believe that China is going to come in and magically save us all. Socialism is all about becoming a billionaire. Come on, guys. You know all that poverty and suffering? No. Unity means production. No. Forget that, man. You're going to be a billionaire. People want false ideas. They want magic solutions to large, complicated problems that don't even involve struggle. And that's where it is. Could you imagine any one of these people having to live in Venezuela? And having to struggle to fight for socialism the way Venezuelans do? Imagine that. And then laugh. Because that's where it is. I know I've bombarded you with a lot during this recording. Hopefully I didn't get too far off course. And I've made whatever points I could actually make. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.